Welcome, everyone, to You Know I'm right here on the Double G Sports Radio Network. And Joe, we have a very special guest here, and let's see if our audience members can guess who he is. I'll read off some of his background here. He is all over the place. You can't miss him if you turn on your TV. He's a host for NHL Network. He's the fantasy expert for that other pregame show on CBS Sports Network. You'll catch him on Change Up on the Zone if there is a baseball season. He's doing various other on-air roles with MLB Network, Sirius XM Sports. He hosts the Virtual Ring, which is a really great show right now. He's doing calling the shots during quarantine. And I think what he's most proud of would maybe be the fact that he does a great job as the program coordinator for Hofstra's continuing education sports journalism program. You've seen him all over the place. He's been nominated for multiple New York Emmy Awards for his work as a play-by-play announcer and host. And Joe, I know you've had some personal interactions with this man.
Yes, I have. Once in Secaucus, I met him in the commissary. I don't know if he remembers that. Hopefully I'll be able to jog his memory. And also I do have some experience working for CBS Sports Network on 57th Street. I don't think I ever met him there, but that is my old stomping grounds. I know those places very well. It is my pleasure to introduce Keith Irizarry to the show. Keith, what's up, man? How you doing?
Amazing. That was an awesome list of my resume. I appreciate that. That was a lot of fun just to listen. And I do appreciate you guys mentioning the stuff that I do with Hofstra as well, because it is one of the more important things, I think. You know, obviously my own jobs and career is great, but the fact that I'm able to give back and kind of help the next group and the next crop of broadcasters has been really awesome for me over the last, I guess, I'm going on, I think, 7 years as running that program now.
Yeah, I see you've been doing some great stuff, getting various other on-air talent to come speak to the kids, such as Kenny Albert. And man, Keith, Is there anybody who works harder in the business than Kenny Albert, especially during like regular football season with hockey and the Stanley Cup and baseball, basketball with the Knicks? The guy's all over the place. He's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually the only in the North America, so Canada or the United States, that does play-by-play for all four of the major sports on television. So pretty darn cool.
Yeah, and he also, of course, does Olympic coverage for hockey as well as track. So definitely gotta respect Kenny Albert. But looking, Keith, at Hofstra real quick here, you guys did make the tournament, so that's definitely good. Can you go around claiming that you are a share of the national champs, despite the fact that the tournament was canceled?
Yes, 100%. I actually a bunch of us had T-shirts made that said Hofstra co-national champions, because you can't deny the fact they did not lose their final game of the year, which was a tournament, got them into the NCAA tournament. So they are one of the 68 teams that can claim that they are co-national champions.
Excellent. So there you have it. Keith comes from the national champs. But Hofstra's been doing a great job with their basketball program. And
yes.
It's great to see when the local schools in New York are doing well, especially Hofstra and St. John's.
And if I can throw this out too, just to show my age, apparently, the last time Hofstra made an NCAA tournament prior to this time being invited in was in 2001. I was on that broadcast as a college student down in Greensboro, North Carolina, when Hofstra fell to UCLA in the opening round. Hofstra had a lead in the first half, was leading with 9 minutes to play in the second half, and then did not get another field goal the final 9 minutes of the game. Ended up losing to that Jason Capono, Barnes, Dan Gadzarich. I think Earl Watson was on that team. So, yeah, it was a good UCLA team.
There you have it. So, Keith, obviously you're a Long Island native and you're in broadcasting. Was there a moment either when you were in Lyndhurst High School or prior to that when you just said, you know what, I want to totally pursue broadcasting as a career?
So I'll tell you this, I'm probably the weirdest broadcast career guy. So this part's not weird. I always dreamt of either playing shortstop for the Yankees or playing in the NBA. And I was good at both of those sports in high school, varsity player, but never really that much better than that. Maybe could have played college baseball. But I decided I wanted to make a lot of money. So when I went to Hofstra, I was going in as pre-law. I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to attack that field. I loved debating. I loved all that type of stuff. Freshman year, first class I take was a speech class. You had to take it for pre-law, and the professor was the Dean of Communications, Dean Drummer. I did my first speech. I was good at it. She said, "Did you ever think about joining the radio station?" And I know that my Hofstra people don't like this next line, but at the time, I didn't even know there was one there. So I was like, "Oh, I didn't know." She goes, "Oh, let me just introduce you to a few people." She brought me over to, at the time, it was called Dempster Hall, and I met a bunch of people. I was like, "This is cool. I'll put an application in, whatever." So I put the app in. I have to get an interview process. I pass through the interview process. I do the training course, which is for no credit whatsoever. You just have to go through 10 weeks of training, pass 2 tests at the end of it. If you pass, you are allowed to be on the radio station. So I did all of that, and that summer I actually changed my major, and then I never looked back.
Fantastic, Keith. But don't sell yourself short on basketball. I've seen you throwing down some ferocious dunks on your kids during quarantine. So I think you definitely learned from your buddy Allen Iverson on some basketball skills. But as far as the broadcasting goes, a lot of times, like we like to do on this show, and it really lines up perfectly with you, with what you're doing with Hofstra. We kind of want to, walk people through your career to see the journey, and I think this would be definitely helpful for some potential broadcasting students out there. So you come out of Hofstra. The first thing you're doing there is, you get the job with Comcast. How did you, I guess essentially make that jump and go from school into your first on-air broadcasting job?
So actually, Comcast ended up being like the second or third job. The first one, which kind of helped me, so it's 2001. I'm actually a senior in college. I guess it was 2002 then. So I'm actually a senior in college, and I had been doing stats work for Cablevision local programming, and I kept begging them to put me on the air, and they, kept poo-pooing it, and they're not going to put a 22-year-old kid on the air, 21, 22, whatever I was at the time. And the day before a high school golf tournament, one of the reporters gets sick. So Sean Mangan, he was one of the producers over there, calls me and says, "Hey, what's your golf knowledge?" And if I'm being brutally honest, it wasn't that extensive. It wasn't one of my favorite sports growing up. At 21, 22, I barely even paid attention to it. But my response was, "It's excellent. Why?" He goes, "Blah, blah, blah is sick. You're doing a report tomorrow on the 9th hole." I'm like, yes. So I go, I do it, I nailed it. And a different producer, this woman, Eileen Shanahan, was there, and she had hired me on the spot to be on her magazine show. So my senior year of college, I was working there and doing the radio station. And then I was at ABC Sports Radio right out of college. And then that kind of got me into Comcast and a few other things.
Excellent. And then obviously, you already did a lot of good college sports work with Hofstra, and then you end up with MSG Varsity doing a lot of local high school sports stuff, and a lot of great names in the industry came through there. I believe Steve Gelbs, you might have crossed paths with him there. He's doing great stuff with the Mets. So
I'll interrupt you. Not even just cross paths. So Steve Gelbs and I were literally on the first ever game broadcast of MSG Varsity. It was Del Barton versus St. Anthony's, played in New Jersey. I was play-by-play. Steve Levy, who was the backup quarterback for Aaron Rodgers at Cal, was the color commentator. Tara Petrolino was one sideline reporter. She's now a fill-in over at ESPN. And Steve Gelbs was the other sideline reporter, who's now at SNY.
So definitely a big breeding ground there for
Jared Greenberg, who's one of the lead NBA TV hosts, and now on Turner on TNT, who's one of my closest friends in the industry. We went to Hofstra together. He also was he was the original anchor of the sports desk at MSG Varsity.
Incredible. So you also did some sideline reporting for the Northeast Conference. Joe and I both are from Staten Island, where the Wagner Seahawks are from.
Yeah.
What is your, and this is, I guess, a more personal question for you is to answer, but, what is your preference when it comes to, doing play-by-play, studio work, or sideline reporting, or do you really just enjoy them all?
I know it's cheesy to say, but I really do enjoy them all. And what's been cool about my career is I've had the opportunity to do all of them. And even now, God, I'm like 18 years into my professional career. Is that where we're at? I can't do math right now. But yes, something nearing in on 20 years of a broadcast career, I still get the opportunity to do all of this. Like, before the pandemic hit, I was still doing some play-by-play, fill-in stuff just for fun, really, mostly hosting now. Every once in a while, I still do sideline for Temple Athletics, down for the American Athletic Conference. So if you ask me my preference, I guess right now I'm doing the most studio stuff. So probably my favorite thing is studio stuff right now. But whenever I get a taste of doing play-by-play, I go, oh my God, I fell in love with that. And I do sideline. Oh, I remember, I love this. So I really love it all. And I know that's not the answer you wanted, but it's how I feel.
No, for sure. And, one of your jobs, you were a voiceover talent, doing voiceovers for around the NHL, which are heard around all hockey arenas throughout the NHL, which is really incredible. So, what was your experience like with that, and how difficult was it to make sure you're able to pronounce all these guys' last names correctly?
I would say, and that was when I was working for New Line, and those NHL voiceovers, like you said, yeah, they would be put into the arenas and then sometimes put onto the actual NHL TV broadcast, like the local broadcast. That was up there with the most difficult job that I've had because it was so rapid fire. Every time there was a goal scored in any game, we had to have, so the editors are sitting there, and it was a whole room of editors. They are cutting together each feed, like everyone's got their certain game. So literally, goal scored by Sidney Crosby, whatever. All right, Penguins score. They're up 2-1. Keith, be ready. And I got to quickly look. I got to make sure I know exactly what happened on that play, what led to it, and then maybe what happened prior in the game also to get to 2-1. And they would give me a certain amount of time. They would say, all right, you got 4 minutes to get ready for it. Boom, we're cutting everything. And then they would also then say, this highlight is 17 seconds, fit it all in. And we had to get that out within like the minutes of it. So that was very difficult. I would clearly say that is towards the top of difficulty in jobs.
So, Keith, would you say that you were basically doing something similar to what an MLB Tonight was? Like rapid fire, trying to get everything out as quickly as possible?
Yeah, almost kind of like what Matt Yaloff is doing too with Quick Pitch at MLB. And I filled in on that show too, where you're rapid firing the highlights like that. You got to get them out as quickly as possible. Yeah, very similar to that.
And Keith, during the same time, you're working as an anchor for ESPN Radio. So I guess at that time in your life, you're getting very used to talking in quick minutes and sound bites.
Yeah, that was an interesting time too, because at that moment, I want to say I had 7 or 8 freelance part-time jobs that were using me basically in full-time fashions. There was at one point, I remember distinctively, it was from October until December, that I had worked 37 consecutive days in a row. Most of them were multiple jobs in a day. And then I ended up with like a day off and then I think it was 17 more in a row, most of the times with multiple jobs in a day. And I'm married, and at that time had 1 child. I now have 2.
Incredible. That's just insane. Speaking of insane, the Mad Dog, you did some shows for Mad Dog Sports Radio, and it's not anchoring and hosting, of course, with Sirius XM, a lot of fantasy work. Did you meet the Mad Dog back in those times, and what was your experience like with him? And overall, how do you enjoy your work with Sirius XM?
Well, it's fun because I'm back at Sirius XM as well. So I started there in 2000 and it was either 2010 or 2011. I was an update anchor, fill-in host for about 3-4 years before I left for NBC Sports Radio, and now I'm back again as a part-time host on various channels. But when I was first there, I was mostly doing updates for the morning show, which is the Morning Men now. But at the time, it was Evan and Steve Phillips, and Mike Babchick was the producer, not the on-air personality. But I would occasionally fill in other shifts. And I was on Mad Dog's, on Russo's show once, and he is every bit of what he is on the air. Like, that is him. Such a genuinely nice guy. And he says to me, he goes, "So where you from?" And I said, "I'm from Long Island." And I said, "I actually, work for MSG Varsity." "Ah, you do. And they, his voice, right? Mm-hmm. We ended up during the break talking about Connecticut sports because his son was
basketball player.
Norwalk, I believe. Either Norwalk or New Canaan.